Colleen. This is my second attempt at this video. The first time, QuickTime was doing something very weird, and so I couldn't really release that in good conscience. But this lesson is what you requested to do. You was working on Foggy Mountain Special. You said you kind of wanted to work up the neck a little bit more, and you had just some basic licks, and you want to kind of expand on that. And I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing your name wrong. There's a lady that go to church with me named Colette, and when I see your name, it's spelled similarly. So you may be Colleen, you may be Colleen. I'm not sure. I may be pronouncing that wrong, but forgive me if I am. So thank you also for kindly and graciously agreeing to release these publicly so that everybody else can share in these lessons. These are very fun to play, and I really enjoy teaching as many people as possible with this. So thanks to Colleen for donating these lessons. So what I want you to do is, for one thing, I want you to realize that we're going to kind of focus on, you wanted to play a little bit more outside, the first 3 frets. Well, I've got some diagrams that I made up that I'll send to you that go along with the first 3 frets and all the way up to the 6th fret, okay? Now, I'd rather you kind of just work on that before we graduate any higher up here, because it can get very confusing. So I've got all kinds of videos on YouTube I'm sure you've seen on improvising and things like that. You can learn from that. But for now, just as a beginner thing, we're going to concentrate on the first 6 frets. So you're actually going to be going double the amount that you were. Okay, so this diagram is going to go over this. But anyway, what I wanted to kind of get across right now is working on playing a melody first and then going back to improvise. We want always to establish a melody first, and Brian Sutton kind of mentions this in his Bluegrass course, Secrets to Successful Flat Picking. And it's a really good course. And but he goes over this and he talks about, once you've established a melody and what the song's supposed to sound like, and your ear is used to that, then you can go back and start improvising over that, because that's kind of locked in, So the main melody goes something like this. If we're playing a G, we're going to basically use this note right here. And right off the bat, before I forget it, what I want you to start working on too is getting out of the habit. A lot of people, when they play guitar, when they start soloing, they have a tendency to play and get stuck on the chords. And what I want you to do is kind of get out of that habit. Don't think that you have to hold the chord down all the time to do solos and things like that. You want to get in the habit instead, when you're thinking solos, that you want to get in the habit of memorizing the shapes, like the ones in the diagrams that I'm going to give you, okay? So you want to get into that mindset. Also, don't forget, as I said in the last video, I think, on the red clay halo, just like in C, a lot of the notes that you can use in the chord of G, the key, are the notes that you're fretting. So these 2 notes work as a melody line, or as, you can always play those notes because they sound good in G. You also have 2 open strings here. And I want you to get in mindset when you're playing in G, the 2nd and the 3rd fret especially, okay? Because if you just play, like there's a G run, or on a 3rd fret on the D string. So major E sounding and bluesy, attitude sounding is the 3rd fret. Same thing with the 2nd and 3rd fret on the G string. Or, once again, bluesy sounding on the 3rd fret. Okay, so let's get into the melody of the song. So we're going to start here. We're going to use our ring finger, and then we're going to come down here. Once again, if we're playing a G, we can't really hit that note unless we kind of get out of the chord mindset and go right into the shape mindset. We can go from the 2nd fret to the 4th fret, and then hit that open G string. And then down here on the 2nd fret D, and then this little run. Now you can do that, make it easier to do it hammer-ons, and then a slide. and then a pull off. Watch my right hand so that you can get the picking down. It's all downstrokes until you get to that G. That's a down for a pull out, hammer on. Up for this. Down for the slide. Up for another open. So both opens are upstroke. Down on the pull off, and then a down on the G, because the downstroke gives us more attack, and we want to always end with a downstroke. And then you do it again. And then they go to a high note. And you can slide drop from the first fret or the second. Sounds better with the first fret. But it goes to a C here, so you kind of want some notes that revolve around C. So we have this chord here that I may have mentioned in the last lesson. I'm not sure if I did or not. But this is kind of like a B. I think of it as a B shape chord for C. And all you're doing is you got these two fingers, just like you have them kind of glued together here for the G. You're going to take them and move them on the 5th fret on the G and the B strings. And then the first finger is going to come down here. And these short chords, what I call short chords, are very cool because, for one thing, you're not hogging the entire fretboard with these long notes. And for another, it gives you room to move. So now I don't have as many fingers to let loose, and so I can play these extra notes. And so the first shape I was going to go over is, on your diagram, is this majory sounding shape. So right out the box, you are going from the 3rd fret to the 5th fret. So now you're 2 frets above and getting used to moving outside the comfort zone of the first 3 frets. So we have 5-3 on E, 5-3 on B, and then that 4th fret on the G, which leads us to slide down, or you can just play it open. Okay? So when we go to that C, and you can just kind of mess around there until you find something in time. You can kind of move around there. I'm looking at my list here to make sure I don't leave anything out. So we established the melody first, and then, for one thing, that's something to do you can do in C. And when you go to the D, I noticed you were going. But you can do that up here too. And I like to slide up to that too, as it kind of like a lead in to here's something cool coming in. Now we're getting some bluesy notes, okay? So let's do a bluesy diagram, okay? That's our major diagram. Now let's do a bluesy diagram. This is G bluesy on your diagram sheet. This is from the 3rd fret to the 6th fret. And basically this is the same thing. We have a whole step here, that's 2 frets. Now we're going to extend that and go 3 frets. 1, 2, 3. We are going to be on the 6-3. 6-3. And then 3rd fret. Or excuse me, 5th fret, 3rd fret, and then open. Now the cool thing is here, I even mentioned on your little tips, thing, the little grade area, that you can combine some of these notes. So I can take this, there's the note from the major, and that open string is your friend. Open strings are really advantageous to players of all kinds, especially bluegrass players. I never did really pay attention to it until I started watching Tony Rice and how they got from one position to the next. Is a lot of people feel like they're stuck and they have to walk down, but you don't have to do that. You can get to a G from here, and it gets you back to your G. So that open string gives you time to get back here to where you're familiar, where you can play around with these other frets. So for now we have the major sound diagram, and then the bluesy sound, or you can even slide that down, because that's part of the major one right here on the 2nd fret. Okay, so you can play around with that. What I was doing here to the D, that leads me to why I was talking about the D. Now we have notes from the major and from the bluesy. And then you can end this several ways. What I did earlier was I barred this right here on the 3rd fret. I'm barring this right here. And then I kind of, right here when I hit this note is when I kind of move up and bar this so that I can go from the 3rd fret, and I'm barring the G and the B strings, not really paying attention to the E string. And that's just a hammer on from the 3rd fret to the 4th on the G. And that's a downstroke and then an upstroke on the B. That's why we're barring it at the 3rd fret. Or the last can be a slide. You can end it with your G. Okay, so that's the melody. That's the main melody. The next thing, let's say it's your turn again to play. You kind of want to play something a little bit more, you know, improvisation-wise. Improvised. Okay, so this time you would probably just mess around. We know that the melody is supposed to sound like... Okay, so we know that. So next time, let's this will give you prime opportunity to mess around with these other notes. As long as you hit them, it's going to sound good. As long as you hit these notes and you play around with them, they're in the scale, or they sound like they're in the scale with the bluesy stuff. So you can just pretty much make up whatever you want to, and it still sound good. So let's just say it's your turn again, and instead of going... That's another thing you can do, by the way, is you go from the 2, a really quick slide 2, 3, and then open. It's a little practice, but you can get it to work. But anyway, instead of doing that, maybe we can go, maybe it's our turn and we want to do this big solo. Now that goes to the C. I really love that little lick. Instead of... We could just go straight to the C by pulling off from the 4th fret to the 3rd fret. Now that's not part of this major or minor, major or bluesy, but it is part of the minor scale. Now that's part of the minor scale for G, so that's going to work there as a bluesy sound. Let's see. And I like to take and bar that. Or bar right here. Not bar, but what am I trying to say? We're moving it up to the G sound. So we're going from a chromatic step, a half step down, up. And that's going to be with your finger, middle finger on the G, second finger or first finger on the B string, 2nd fret. So we go from 3 with our middle finger to 4, and we just let this, follow. Let's see. You can either hybrid pick that or just strum it. That's another cool thing you do. That's down, up on the open, then down on the G. And then on the last, the D part, when it goes to the D, That's another note you can hit there. Like if you was in A and you wanted to hit some of these licks, obviously the open G is not going to be your root like it can be with G. So if you're in A, or if you just want to hit the root note, you can hit it right here. And this whole chord is an F shape, but at the 3rd fret here, it gives us a G. Okay, so these short chords, you can play chords in many forms up and down the neck. You have a G, you have an F shape, you have, you know, a D shape here, a C shape. So there's many ways to play a chord, and like I said, if I'm playing this shape, all these notes I can play. All these notes I can play. All these notes I can play. So this gives me notes I can already use, and then all I have to do is just mess around. So I encourage you to take these diagrams and play around, even if you're in D. Play around with lifting a finger. Play, you know, doing a whole step above that, or you know, just play around with the notes that you have, work around those things and see what you can come up with. So I've given you a diagram, and you can kind of use this idea on other chords. My time is kind of running out here, yeah. Let's see. I went over that. Like I said, kind of get out of the habit of thinking about chords, holding chords, and think about playing shapes. The other thing I was going to go over real quick is there's another bluesy diagram, and I really like playing with this one. This is basically these notes here. Okay, so we have a G, F to E, we have a D, C, to this A sharp, B flat note. I'm not good at naming all these notes, but okay. Now notice the thing we did here. You can do that here with your ring finger. So we're going basically, and I love playing with this one because this same thing we did in C. We can do it down here in G. And then we got to hit that open G to establish the root. So I usually reach out for my middle finger because I'm having to come back down. And these other fingers will get in the way if I use my 3rd finger there. So that's a hammer on from the 1st fret to the 3rd on the B. Then upstroke, that's a downstroke. Then an upstroke on, I'm barring this. Okay. Upstroke on that E string. And then immediately move this finger and go to this finger. Then you pull that off. And then just go from the 3rd. And your fingers fit naturally right there. You got 1st fret, 2nd fret, 3rd fret. So that it's gonna, you don't have to stretch or anything. Okay. So the next go around after it's your solo, instead of going up here and soloing, you might combine starting here and then ending up here. So instead of, you can go. See. Okay, so that's pretty much the lesson. Let's see. The other thing I was talking about was, and I already mentioned that earlier, is these are your box shapes. I call them box shapes. These are your shapes. You got major. And then you kind of slide out of the box, but here's the other one. These notes that are in between that, and you can combine some of these notes. Those are outside the box, so experiment. When you have a box, you can even play as far as the 7th fret. I like doing this a lot of times. That's another good one right there. Instead of going to the 4th fret or 5th fret here, you can go to the 5th or 6th fret and scoot it down. So you got going down, and then 3rd fret going up. 6 to 5, 3 to 4. I usually reach out with my ring finger to do that. Okay, so that's outside the box. And the other thing I was going to go over is chords like, songs like this that you say have like a funky beat and a bluesy sound. Chords that you can use with this that I love to use are called ninth chords. And real quickly, I'm going to compare seventh chords and ninth chords if you're not familiar with these. Like a C7 is real easy to play. All you do is go to C here, and then put your pinky down on that G string right on the 3rd fret. And that gives us the nice little credence sound. That's all that is a 7th chord. Now, a D7 chord is kind of similar. You're going to leave your first finger where it is, move this finger down, lift these fingers and tuck the finger that's right here on the C note, tuck it right underneath, right there, right on the 2nd fret. And if you'll notice, if I played the C7 with those same 3 fingers, it's the same shape. Okay. Now, if you take this and move it down, you have a B7. But you don't want to play the low string. I kind of mute it. I have a habit of muting strings. That's another thing. The more you play, the more you realize you don't have to play every single string on the instrument. You can get away with playing a few strings, and that saves movement that you can use somewhere else. But this B7, I typically like to play it like this because it's just kind of hard sometimes to get that pinky under there on the 3rd fret of the E. So that's the full B7 chord. But anyway, back to the C7. This is the C7. This is a D7. Another thing that's really cool is you can take this and slide it up 2 frets. And that's a D7. Same thing. Okay, so with a 7th chord, you basically have a 7th interval. In the major scale, you have 7 main notes. Like if I was in C, you'd have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, or 8. It's the octave. It's the higher than the original note, the root. So we have a flatted 7th to get a nice 7th sound. We take that 7 and we flatten it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. Now there's a lot of explanations and all this, but I'm going to keep that to a minimum. With a ninth, a C ninth, it adds a 9th step. And okay, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We call this 8 because after this we have what are called extended intervals. They go to the 9th, 9, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. And we only consider the 9th, the 11th, and the 13th. We only really pay attention to those. So if I take that 7th, flat 7th, and add the 9th, we have what's called a C9 chord. Now you'll notice I'm barring with this bottom finger here. Basically you're going to take this 7th shape that I told you, like the D7, and you move it here. You're going to replace these 3 fingers with these 3 fingers, and it's still a C7. And you basically need to add that B string on the 3rd fret. You can do this a couple different ways. You can take and bar that, and when I do that, notice, I don't know if you can see this or not, I'll just scoot it up here. On this finger, the ring finger, I'm kind of playing on the tip, but when I bar it, I kind of have to move my finger up just a hair so that I can, when I come down, it clears the string above it. Now if I did it with just my tip, it would kind of slide off. See that? Here's the tip where I normally play that note, and it kind of slides off. So I have to kind of move this up and pull it down. Okay, so that gives me a C9. Compared with a C7, here's what that sounds like. And this is a chord that players like Stevie Ray Vaughan and a lot of blues players love to use. And it gets that nice funky sound, Okay, so you can get all nice and funky with that. And the cool thing about this is, just like the C7, if you move it up, as long as you keep the shape, you have a D7. The middle finger here determines the key by what note you're on. That's a D note, so that's a D7. Here's an E7. Once again, with all these seventh notes, we can make it a ninth chord by borrowing this note. E9, D9, C9, F9, G9. So I can play around with those. There are ways. This is the 5th string version of the ninth chord. There are ways to do it on the 6th string, but I'm not going to fool with that right now. Now, the other thing to do with this, if the barring is too hard, and probably will be, all you really have to do is, most everybody knows the cheater C. You play a G like this, and you put these 2 fingers down the next set of strings. It gives us a nice little C add 9 chord. It's a cheater C is what I call it, because it's real easy. Well, to make it a ninth, all you have to do is move these 2 fingers up. So you're kind of meeting in the middle. This goes down, this goes up, and now we have from the A to the B string, we have now a ninth chord. So I can take this 7th chord, now, did you hear that? Sounds terrible. You got to make sure you play only these 3 chords, these 3 notes that you're fretting, unless you add the finger here. Then you can move it up if you need to. That's a cool thing that you can do as well when you're playing, like if you wanted to, let's say we wanted to play this song. What you could do is, what's really fun to do is move them around chromatically. In other words, take them and move them up 1 fret and then back. Or down 1 fret and back and forth between the normal chord and, below it. Or you can go from the D back down to C. That gives you more of a bluesy sound. So that's basically what I wanted to go over today, so that you now have a huge arsenal of stuff to work on with the diagrams. Now, I don't have the chords on the diagram sheet, but because I didn't think about it, but from this, I'm sure that you can find it. No problem. So, and to all my YouTube subscribers, thank you so much for subscribing. Please tell your friends to subscribe. Click the like button if you like this video, if it's helping. I'm getting a lot of awesome comments, and I appreciate that. I also apologize. Some of my videos lately, the audio's been off sync, and that's a YouTube problem. I watch it on my, my Mac here, and it shows up just fine. So I had to go back and re-upload a couple of them. But I'll definitely check on that from now on and make sure that it's going to do right. So this is Eric signing off. Thanks so much, Colleen, for suggesting this, video on Foggy Mountain Special. And thanks, guys, for watching. Click the like button, subscribe, and we'll be back with some more of these. Now that I got a few students online, it's pretty cool noticing all the different videos that we can come up with. So if you are interested in getting online and having online videos with me, just email me at beattylessons.com. We can either do lessons on Google Hangouts or Skype, or we can do private video lessons like you're seeing right now. Okay, thanks so much for watching. Until next time, this is Eric signing off. You guys have a good day. And right now it's almost Christmas, so if I don't see you before then, keep enjoying my Christmas videos and have a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Thanks so much, and God bless.